Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Code with Hafiz. This is Hafizullah Masoudi and this is our fourth video of the tutorial. And in this video guys, I'm gonna show you how to do the create functionality in single page applications. But before that guys, I want to say that if you didn't have subscribed to my channel, you can see at the bottom of the video at your right corner big red button. Please click on that and to not miss any updates from my channel. So let's start. If you guys remember, in our last video we finished and configured everything about the Vue router for our single page application. Now in this video we will create our first Vue route or a router link. So let's open our project in Visual Studio Code. Now in here let's go to resources, views, and will complete. Well, everything looks fine here. Let's go to JS components and welcome component. Now in here what I want to do, before everything guys, let's put a break in here, because if we go back to the browser and refresh, you can see it's now looking fine. Now in our welcome component, let's remove this button, and instead of this button let's say router dash link, and let's give it a class of btn dash primary, and we want to float it to the right, and for the text let's say create. And now if we go back, refresh, let's refresh, it's not working. Oh, we have to run our run watch. So open a command prompt window and let's first navigate to our project folder. So cd //vamp64/www/laravel vue, and now let's say yarn run watch. So it compiled all the code successfully. Now if we go back to the browser and refresh, it should work. Well, it's not working either. Let's see what is the problem. So btn primary, and this is the text for it. Let's say control F5. We don't have any button now. Guys, let's also give it the route. So let's say to/create. Now if we go back to the browser and refresh, it was because of that too. So our router link is working just fine. Now let's create this Vue.js route. So let's go to our routes.js, and then here let's put a comma and our curly brackets, and inside here let's say path should be /create, and we want to use a component, so let's name it also create. Now let's create this component. Let's also import it at the top, so create component, and this one should be create. Now let's create this create component in our components folder. So right click and .view. Let's put our template tags, and let's also create a div. Now let's create a row and also give the class of justify dash content dash center, and let's create a call dash md dash 6, and let's create a card header, and inside this card header let's say create new record. After that let's create a card dash body, and let's create a form group, so form dash group, a label for name. This one should be name, and an input. Let's give the class of form dash control, and a name also, which should be name. Let's copy this form group, paste it. Let's copy it again and paste it 2 times more. This one should be, for example, let's say position. And this one should be, let's say, email. And finally, let's create another form group, which should be for our button. So button, and this should say create. Let's give the class also btn dash primary. Now the next part is, guys, to create some objects for these 3 fields. So at the bottom, let's first declare our script tags, and in here let's say data or parentheses curly brackets, and let's name it form data, and our curly brackets will, before that, guys, we have to say return curly brackets. Now we can create our objects. First one is name, and it should be an empty string. Second one is position, it should be also empty, and the third one is email, which should be empty too. Now the next part is to bind these objects with these inputs. So in here we can say v dash model, and first let's say form data dot name. Now let's copy this v model and paste it for this one and for this one too. This one should be email or position, and the last one should be email. Now if we go back to the browser, refresh and go to this create, you can see it shows our form. But guys, it's too big. Let's say this should be called md4, or instead of making it 4, guys, it is alright with 6. Let's go to our welcome blade, and in here what we can do is give this div a class of container, and I think it should be good to go. Yeah, that's good. Now the next part, guys, is to declare an add click event to this button. So let's say add click create, and let's also say dot prevent here. Now let's create this method. So at the bottom, let's say comma methods, and will not here, it should be outside the data. So methods, and let's name it as we did create, and our curly brackets, and we want to use axios. So axios dot post, and the URL should be create, and we want to send the form data, so form data. And then what we want to do with the response, so let's say dot then, and we want to say that response is coming should be equal to a function, and we want to say console.log record created. This is when we have a success submission. But if we have any errors, so we want to handle the errors also. So to do that, we can say dot catch, and we have error coming, and it should be equal also to a function. Let's copy this console and paste it here, but instead of this message, we want to show the error. And one thing more, guys, after saving the data, we also want to return our redirect to the previous page. So let's say this $.$router dot push, and the URL that we want to return. If I go back, you can see this is the root directory. So in here we can only put a slash, and that should do the work. Now the next part is to create this route in our routes file of Laravel. But before that, guys, we have an error here, and it is because of this extra comma. Remove that. Now let's go to our routes and web.php, and at the bottom let's say route : post, and it should be create, and this route should go to a controller called employee controller at create method. And that's all, guys. Now let's create a controller migration and also a model for this employee. So let's go back to our command prompt. Let's terminate this process, and let's say php artisan make model for employee, and we want to mark it for migration and controller also, and press enter. It will create all of them for us. So our controller model and migration has been created successfully. Now let's open our model, or not model, guys, migration first. So let's go to migrations, first database, then migrations, and this last one. As you can see, create employees table. So let's open it, and let's put 3 new fields, which should be the type of string. First one is name, and this should be string 2 for position, and this one should be string also for email, and save it. Before running our migrations, let's also do one thing more. Let's go to providers, or not route service provider, app service provider, and at the top let's duplicate this one, and let's say facades / schema, and in our boot menu let's say schema : default string length 191. Well, guys, this is because if you run your migrations without doing this, it will throw an error which will say the specified key is too long, and some of your tables won't be created. So to remove that error, you have to write this code in your app service provider. So now let's close this file because we don't need it, and let's go to command prompt window, and let's say php artisan migrate. And if you remember, guys, we connected our database in our previous videos, so we should be good to go. Now let's press enter, and yeah, our tables are created successfully and without any errors. Now let's go to our phpMyAdmin and go to Laravel Vue. Yeah, you can see these are our tables. So the next part, guys, is to go to our controller and write the code for submitting the data to the table. So let's scroll to the top, go to HTTP controllers and employee controller, and in here, guys, let's say public function create our create method, and we also want our request which is coming from the inputs. So request $request, our curly brackets. Now first we want to validate the data, so request arrow validate, and our array, we want to validate the name, which should equal to required, and let's duplicate this one 2 times more, and this one should be for position, which should be also required, and the last one should be email, which should be required too. And put our semicolon. Now let's create an object by the name of emp, which should equal to new employee model. And don't forget to use your employee model at the top of your controller. So use app \employee, which is in here. As you can see, this is under app folder. So now let's put everything to the table. So emp $emp arrow name should equal to $request arrow name. Let's duplicate this one 2 times more. This one should be for position, and this one should be for email. Now finally we can save everything to the database. So $emp arrow save and semicolon. And at the last, let's return our response, parenthesis arrow JSON, and we want to return the emp in the response. So I think our code has been finished. Now let's check it and try it if it works. So let's get back to our browser, refresh, let's go to create, and let's also open our inspect element, and let's say it should be at the bottom. And one thing more guys that I wanted to show you, well, I don't have the Vue extension, so let's install the extension also. Let's go to settings and extensions, and oh guys, not here, we have to go to Chrome store. So let's search for Chrome store. Let's search for Vue.js and press enter. And I want to install this first one, so click on this. Well, if you already have installed it, so don't follow these steps. Let's add it to Chrome. Yeah, I want to add the extension. So it has been added successfully guys, you can see. Now let's close this and go back here, refresh. Yeah, let's pin it also. Now if I refresh here, well, we don't have the view in here. Let's force refresh. Oh guys, let's close the browser and open it again. Now let's open our project. So localhost Laravel Vue, and let's go to inspect. Yeah, it is available now. And if I go to create, and in here these are the objects that we created, and if I type something here, you can see it is being filled. So it means our binding is working fine. Now let's check our code if it saves the data to the database. So let's say and position, let's say manager hafizullah at app.com, and let's say create. Well, we have 2 errors, and it says form data is not defined. Form data is not defined. And if we go back to the text editor, let's go to our create component, and this is form data. Form data. Well guys, this should be not just form data, it should be this dot form data. Yeah. Now if we go back and create, well, yeah, we have to refresh. So now let's say Hafizullah position should be manager and Hafizullah at app.com, and let's say create. It's not working either, and that is because we terminated our run watch. So let's run it again. Now let's hard reload, and let's say again Hafizullah position should be manager and Hafizullah at app.com, and let's say create. Yeah, we have been redirected successfully, and as you can see, record created. And if we go to the localhost phpMyAdmin and let's log in, go to Laravel Vue, and let's go to employees. Yeah, you can see one record created successfully. So guys, this was how to create in single page applications. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and learned something from it. And if you like the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it with your friends. So thanks for watching guys, and see you in the next video.